Jump Away by Renee Saldana, Jr. Let's set our purpose for reading to find out how Fenny reacts to a bully. Fenny clung to the metal railing behind him. The cement ledge under him was hot on his bare feet. He looked at the river 15 feet below and nodded. Easy enough, he thought. Not scary, like in all those movies, where the manly man heroes walking across a rotting wooden bridge way above a rushing river in search of the ever-elusive treasure. Then someone else, the sidekick or the sarcastic native guide, says, "Whatever you do, don't look down." And always, always, the hero, who it turns out is afraid of heights, does look down and freezes stiff or makes some kind of fraidy-cat remark that usually makes audiences laugh. Fenny wasn't scared that way. He wasn't bothered by heights. That's not why he was clinging to the bridge railing. He just didn't want to go in before Mike said so. That'd mean certain trouble for him at school. Today was their turn. 6 or 7 of them, all the oddballs on campus, challenged to jump from Jensen's bridge to prove themselves to Mike and the rest of his crew of strong-arms. Fenny looked upriver, some 150 yards, and saw 2 people. Fishing, he figured. Fenny couldn't see the rods. Themselves, much the lines. How the 2 sat and held out their arms, their reeling in and casting motions, told him that's what they were up to. "Any of you want to back out?" asked Mike. He was also hanging onto the rail, several jumpers to Fenny's left. Mike swung out, holding on with one hand. He looked at the rest of them, a smile on his face, but a glare too. Mike had been in charge at school of recruiting the next batch. That's what he called those who he felt needed to show they were real men, not the skinny punks I think you really are. At school this week, Mike and his boys had surrounded the would-be jumpers one at a time and told them, "Jump or be jumped." Every one of the boys Mike confronted during the past week showed up today. "Any of you girls want to back out? It's okay if you do. Not all of us have to be man enough. How about you, Femi? You look a bit shaky." He laughed. Fenny said, "It's Fenny? Don't worry about me. I'm jumping. I'm just waiting for the word." He let go with one hand to brush back his hair. Mike humphed. "And the rest of you punks, what's it going to be? Any of you others want to back out?" No one said anything. Fenny wasn't afraid, but even so, he really didn't want to jump. No, really he did, but on his own terms. Not forced, like what Mike was doing to them here. He wanted to go when he wanted. Better yet, he would have liked to have been fishing instead. Like the 2 people upriver. He looked at them again. He saw one of them standing up, looking in their direction. It was a girl with her hand cupped over her eyes. She was wearing a sleeveless shirt, and her arms looked pinkish to Fenny. The day was good for fishing. It was warm enough, almost no current to speak of. Fenny pulled a stick of gum from his shorts pocket. "What am I doing here?" he thought. What do I care what Mike thinks about me?" Fenny remembered a story he'd read recently in class. It was about a boy who's been challenged to dive 50 feet from a ledge into a pool of water at the base of a waterfall. The boy in the story doesn't dive. Instead, he treks back down to the base, where the others, a girl included, figure him for a wimp. Easy for a kid to do in a story, Fenny thought. He doesn't have to worry about a very real thug like Mike, whose very real fists mean very real bruises and black eyes and a bloody nose. "Last chance," said Mike. Pause here to make a prediction. Fenny is still on the bridge. What will he do? Fenny considered climbing back over the railing, walking down to the riverbank, up to the people fishing and asking, "How are they biting?" Maybe sitting down beside one of them and saying, "What about you giving me a turn?" Then casting his line and lazy, reeling it back in. No matter, nothing was biting. The sun on his face and arms would be good. But then he'd remember Monday was just around the corner. Everyone at school would know he hadn't jumped. He'd get beaten up, or worse. Mike or someone else would pull his pants down around his ankles and shove him down in the hall between periods. Everyone would laugh. The girls would giggle at his skinny legs, point at his tight white underpants while he tried covering himself with one hand and with the other try to pull his pants up. Not one sympathetic girl in the bunch. Not one who would come up to him after to say, "Listen, Fenny, these guys are jerks, blah, blah, blah." Nope, just laughing. Forget the fishing, he thought. "So what, are we jumping or are you yapping?" Fenny said. He turned and looked at Mike. When Fenny saw Mike's ugly stare, he knew that even if he jumped today, he'd still be Femi at school. Mike would still be the jerk who pushed him around. It's not like we'll be best friends come Monday, he thought. "Whoa," Mike said. "Anxious, are we? Just hold your horses, Femi. It'll happen soon enough. I just need to try to scare the rest of your buddies. At least one of them will back down if we wait up here long enough, right? Who's first to back out?" "It's not going to be Femi by the sound of him, so who's it going to be? How about you, Richie? No? You? Or you?" Mike went down the line, calling each of the boys by name, waiting 6 or 7 seconds, all the time staring at them. Not one of them backed down, though. "Impressive. Okay, then, on my count of 3, ready? On my 3, 1, said Mike. To heck with it, Fenny thought. I'm going in early, on my own, Mike or no Mike. 2. Right before he called 3, Fenny said 3 and jumped, toes pointed right at the water. He took a breath and kept his eyes open. It looked to him like the fishing girl was looking their way. Fenny stiffened and cut right into the water, no problem. He breathed hard out of his nose on impact. Then he was under, murky and green down there. He heard the others' muffled screams, then the gurgling of them breaking the water. Fenny went all the way down far enough to feel the slimy bottom of the river oozing between his toes. His eyes were open the whole way, bulging from the pressure and stinging from keeping them open. He pushed himself off the river bottom and shot up and out of the water. The others swam to the bank. Mike was already out and shaking himself off. Then a couple joined him, then the rest, all of them looking for a place to lie down. Fenny took his time, though, flipped over and swam on his back. Couldn't wait, could you? Mike screamed. Fenny swung his arm up over his body in a perfect arc and sliced his hand into the water. He reached way, way down and felt the river bottom with his knuckles under him. He had almost reached the edge. He stood up, water up to his knees, pushing against him. He saw the others, everyone except for Mike, lying down in the sun. Mike glared at him. I said go on 3, my 3. Not 2, not 2.5, and definitely not your 3. That too difficult a plan for you? See, things hadn't changed much. Mike was still a jerk. Easy enough plan, your 3, not mine. You were just taking your sweet time, though, like you were having a hard time figuring what came after 2. Fenny saw the others tilt their heads up and in his direction. 1 or 2 of them leaned up on an elbow. Mike inched his way to Fenny with his chest sticking out, his slick back hair shining in the sun. What did you say? Now the 2 were up on each other, face to face, breathing heavy. I know you just didn't speak out of turn, and I know you didn't just say what I think I heard you say, right? Fenny was quiet. Then he said, No, you heard me right. The speed of what happened next caught Fenny off guard, but it didn't surprise him. Mike's fist caught him full on the left side of his face, right on the cheekbone, and Fenny was down on the ground. "You know," said Mike, "diving today, it doesn't change anything." Of course it doesn't, thought Fenny. Why would it?